the thing is, though, that you do a lot of prep in, for example, writing the script, where it sort of tells you what you're supposed to say.
6 days on it.
Yeah. Well, that's 6 days of work, intense work.
God did it in 7.
Well, I didn't take that day off. And, you know, so the thing about like Spider, which Rafe is brilliant in, is that when you're doing great, well, I don't want to mess it up by saying anything. That's really my attitude. So it's, oh, I should say it's great? No.
No. Great? I was great?
Oh yeah, of course. Of course you were great. Yeah.
No, but in
you guys heard that.
In your defense, I will say that sometimes as an actor, you have this natural thing inside of you to please people, and you want to make people happy. And when you're making a film, it's very much a team atmosphere, and you want to please the people who you're with and make people happy and make sure that they're happy with your work. But when I found when I was working with you, it forced me to feel a confidence in my own work. You know, to find that approval within myself in a lot of ways, which is a really important it's an important lesson for an actor to learn, is how to be confident enough in your own work that you aren't constantly seeking outside approval. So you all thought I did okay, right?
Because sometimes they're like drooling and pathetic, you know, and I just don't want to give in to that.
Yeah, you can't. You
I'm not going to tell you we're good.
I know.
But it's true though, because it's I feel like we're professionals. We're all going. I mean, who's telling me I'm doing great? Yeah, you don't say to me.
No, I know.
That was a great camera angle you set up. You know.
I did from time to time.
Yeah, but you know. Yeah, but you know, you're not as. You're cute, but you're not. You know. Anyway, so it goes. But every director has, I guess, I assume, because I rarely. I mean, sometimes I act in movies just to find out what other directors do. Really.
After I work with David and I work with other directors, and they say things like, "That was so great! I loved you. You were amazing," and I walk away and think they're full of shit.
And you're right, you know, because. No, I think we're all doing good work, and we just keep doing it. You know that. I mean, and it's only if something goes wrong that you say, okay, well maybe we're doing something wrong like that. Well, I mean, my assumption is that we're all great, all of us, cameramen too.
Down here, or is there someone have the mic?
Hello?
Yeah. Okay, and then down here.
I was just wondering if you knew what DeLillo's reaction to the movie was.
He loves the movie. Yeah, we were all in. He came. He's very reclusive. You know, you can only connect with him by fax. He doesn't have a cell phone. He won't. You know, and he doesn't have email, or at least he doesn't let on that he does. So, in other words, he's a real novelist, and but he agreed to do some publicity with us and to tour a bit with us in Europe. And that was incredibly unusual. I mean, not that he's had movies made of his stuff, but just to expose himself that way. He barely does that to promote his own books. So that was a measure of it. And then, you know, I mean, once he's out there, he's very affable and approachable, and he absolutely adored the movie. He loved it. You know, I mean, I think he wanted it to be some different new thing, you know. I mean, I've had good luck with the novelists that I've worked with, and they're a disparate group, starting with Stephen King with The Dead Zone, who at the time said it was the best adaptation of any of his books. Absolutely. And there had been quite a few. And William Burroughs and J.G. Ballard, and you know, so it's you know, novelists, first of all, they're pretty intrigued by movies, and they don't expect the movie to sort of be their book. If they're smart, they don't, because it can't be. It's impossible. So anyway, yes, he loved the movie, and we talked about it a lot. He's a big fan.
Down here.
So my question has to do with how long you took shooting the film, because it seemed like the tempo was very important, and this kind of steadiness of Robert Pattinson's character, you know, until things start to unravel at the end, that he had to sort of really almost be in the same seat, for the first hour and a half.
Well, I mean, a movie sort of reveals its rhythm as you're shooting it, and we shot it in 30 days. I think it was boarded for 34 days, and my actors were so good with all that dialogue. And I thought, we're working with a crew that I'm very familiar with, and I really thought we were at the height of our game, really. We were very efficient, but also doing some really interesting things that certainly, entertained us. And I knew that the movie would be difficult for a normal movie audience. I mean, it doesn't move like a normal movie does, a mainstream movie, and it requires a lot of listening. There's a lot of dialogue. In fact, Dangerous Method was also wall-to-wall dialogue, so there's two movies that are really very dialogue heavy. And yes, you actually do need to have really good actors, especially if you're doing long takes, with no cutting. Samantha Morton, had a lot of stuff to say, and it's all great stuff. I mean, I know that a lot of people walk out of this movie, especially kids who come to see Rob Pattinson, expecting they know it's not Twilight, but they hope it sort of is, and then it isn't. So they walk out. But you have to be willing to listen. And that's something that is not often demanded in movies, not in this way, but I didn't want to. I think that's one of the reasons that DeLillo was impressed by the movie, because he saw that we can compromise on that aspect of his book. There would be, I wasn't tempted to, but you could be tempted to try and tighten it and compress it and do this and do that, but I really thought what was being said, even though it's very difficult to absorb it all, it's very dense, there's no question about it. But it's really good stuff, it's really very interesting stuff. His comments on capitalism and it's not cliched stuff, it's really interesting stuff that's all from Don. So, but you have to let the movie tell you what it wants. That's the way it feels to me. The movie will tell you what it needs in terms of pace, in terms of lighting. My cameraman and I, we don't know what we're going to do for the first shot. To choose which lens we're going to shoot the first close-up with is a huge decision, because it starts to establish something, the style. Will it be a wide-angle lens, and then you will be close to the faces, and these actors know that we use wide-angle lenses, which means that the camera is physically very close to them. And it's not the traditional way that you do close-ups. You usually do it with like a 50mm lens, and this we're this close. So that affects their performance, because it's hard for them to see the other actor and so on. I'm aware of all that, but it's sort of, I like to torture them. I think it's really good for them.
Just so, like, an example would be the scene with Rob and I in the diner, for example. We shot one day, that entire scene, just Rob's coverage, and then the next day we shot the entire day my coverage. So we did that scene over 2 days, just to give you an idea of the kind of pacing and the time that, also the time that we were given as actors to really explore a scene. Generally, you don't get that much time to shoot a scene nowadays when you're making film, so it's also rare for us.
I think it's also interesting you mentioned the pacing. I think it's really interesting that you chose to shoot the film basically in chronological order, so that usually, you divide up the film and you shoot what's practicable, depending on what locations you need and so on, and you jump back and forth through the script. But mainly this movie was shot the way it's seen, so that Rob's character developed a sense of anxiety and tragic doom over the course of the...
Yeah, because he was thinking of his career. And so he knew that he was doomed. No. I mean, but it's true. It's rare, and it's the logistics of the production that really determined that. But in this case, we were able to shoot more in sequence than I think I've ever been able to. So the last shot of the movie was the last shot that we shot, for example. And